On May 28, 2026, his rocket exploded at Cape Canaveral in Florida. Flames, debris, billions of dollars gone up in smoke. Exactly 30 years later, the very first Amazon servers were exploding in a tiny garage near Seattle, the same servers that made his rocket possible at all. How did a garage startup manage to fund rocket development? Why did selling books turn out to be the decisive factor in Amazon's growth? How was one man able to build up two completely different empires at the same time for nearly 3 decades? And what price did he have to pay for that success? And today, the whole truth about Jeff Bezos. How a guy from Wall Street quit a stable career, drove across the country in an old van, and built two empires at once, Amazon and Blue Origin. A bookstore that became the world's everything store, a space company that was supposed to make space accessible to everyone, $1 trillion rises, explosions on the launchpad, the dot-com crash that nearly buried Amazon, secret billions poured into rockets, the divorce of the century that cost $38 billion. But let's take it step by step. Subscribe to the channel and hit the like button on this video. And while you're doing that, let's go back to the very beginning of this story. The story began with a boy who, at the age of 10, was already repairing windmills on an abandoned ranch. 1964, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Jeff's mother, Jackie, was 17 years old. His father, Ted Jorgensen, the owner of a bicycle shop, disappeared from their lives almost immediately. To finish high school and college, Bezos' mother took baby Jeff with her to night classes, carrying 2 bags, one with textbooks, the other with diapers and bottles. A couple of years later, his mother married Mike Bezos, a Cuban immigrant and Exxon engineer. He officially adopted the boy and gave him his last name. Every summer, Jeff would go to his ranch in Texas and spent all his time there with his grandfather, Lawrence Preston Gies, who had once worked at DARPA and knew how to make any piece of machinery work. There was no room for whiners there, fixing fences, castrating calves, repairing tractors, milking cows. If something breaks, fix it yourself. Behind closed doors, the family whispered that it was precisely these summer survival lessons that forged Bezos' iron will. He himself would later say, "My grandfather taught me that the world isn't supposed to be comfortable. You make it comfortable yourself." Jeff was a straight-A student in school. By high school, he had fallen in love with computers. In the summers, he worked part-time at McDonald's. In 1982, he enrolled at Princeton, where he studied electrical engineering and computer science. He graduated summa cum laude with highest honors. In 1986, right after college, he landed a job on Wall Street at Fiddle, a company developing international networks. Then bankers' trust, and in 1990 came the big break. D.E. Shaw, one of New York's most aggressive hedge funds. Bezos rose to the top in a flash. At 30, he became the youngest vice president in the firm's history. His salary was nearly $1 million a year, an office with a view of Manhattan, everything any small-town guy could dream of. But not our Jeff. He thought on a completely different scale. In 1994, the internet was growing by 2,300% a year. Bezos saw the numbers and realized he had to act. After a brief moment of reflection, he made the pivotal decision to try selling goods online. Books were his first choice. Why? A huge selection, low shipping costs, and no need for physical stores. He went to his boss and said, "I'm quitting." Shaw was in shock. "Are you out of your mind? You have a career, bonuses, everything." Bezos answered with a phrase he would repeat for the rest of his life. "I don't want to be 80 years old and regret not having tried." Summer 1994. Jeff and his wife Mackenzie, who by the way worked at the same fund, drove across the country to Bellevue, near Seattle. Why Seattle? It was close to Ingram, the largest book distributor, and it had a cheap, skilled IT workforce. On the way, Bezos hastily scribed a business plan on his lap. At first, they wanted to name the company Cadabra, like a magic spell. But a lawyer heard cadaver, and Bezos immediately realized that they had to change it. That's how Amazon came to be, named after the world's largest river. Jeff's parents invested nearly all their savings, $245,000 into the startup. The company launched out of the garage of their rented house. Jeff assembled the computers himself and set up the server. Mackenzie handled the bookkeeping. On top of that, they hired a programmer for $5,000 a month. By the way, later Bezos made desks for his team in the garage office out of old doors. This door desk tradition still lives on at Amazon today as a symbol of frugality. It was right there, in the very garage, that the story of two empires began at once. Because as early as 1995, alongside Amazon, Bezos secretly began thinking about space. But more on that later. For now, the first order. The book Fluid Concepts and Creative Analogs. Delivered to Fort Worth, Texas. The customer had no idea he had just purchased a product from a company destined to change the world. July 16, 1995. An ordinary garage in Bellevue. Jeff Bezos personally packs the first book sold, and just a month later, Amazon is selling books to all 50 states and 45 countries. In the first 4 months alone, $500,000 in revenue. In the first full year, $15.7 million. Bezos immediately announced a rule that would later become the company's creed. Get big fast, grow fast or die. No profit at the start. Everything goes toward growth. In 1996, they opened their first real warehouse in Delaware, 100,000 square feet. They rapidly hired employees. Mackenzie still handled the bookkeeping and answered customer emails at night. In Silicon Valley, people initially laughed at them. An online bookstore? Seriously? Bezos paid no attention because he knew what lay ahead. He told investors, "We don't sell books. We're building the most customer-centric company on the planet." And he introduced 3 rules that everyone later copied. One-click purchasing, customer reviews, and an affiliate program. Pay anyone who brings in a customer. On May 15, 1997, the company went public. The share price opened at $18. By the end of the first day, $30. A year later, already close to $100. Market capitalization, billions. At 33, Bezos was a paper billionaire. Magazines called him the king of the internet. Next came expansion. 1998, music and DVDs. 1999, toys, electronics, software. Warehouses were popping up like mushrooms. The strategy was simple. If a customer wants something, we sell it. Even if we lose money on it for now. The main thing was volume and data. While all the venture capital funds were going crazy over .coms, Bezos was already building not a store, but a machine. He had a significant advantage over other companies. He said, "Your margin is my opportunity." And he beat the competition on price. Barnes & Noble was in a panic. Traditional retailers couldn't understand how a guy in a garage could sell cheaper than they did in their massive stores. By 1999, revenue reached $1.6 billion, a 3-fold increase in a single year. Shares soared to $113. Bezos was on the covers of Time, Forbes, and Newsweek. He was named Man of the Year. But it was precisely at this moment, at the peak of the boom, that he began building his second empire. The year 2000. The dot-com bubble bursts. Amazon's stock plummets 90% over the year, down to $6. The company is on the brink of bankruptcy. Debts are enormous. Investors are in a panic. Competitors already writing obituaries. But what does Bezos do at this moment? He secretly uses his own money to fund Blue Origin. In 2000, he registers the company and begins hiring the first rocket engineers. On weekends, in a secret hangar. While Amazon is barely breathing, he pours tens of millions into rockets. Bezos called Blue Origin the most important work of his life. His goal wasn't just rockets, but to move all heavy and dirty industry into space so that Earth could remain a beautiful garden. No one understood what was going on. The guy has completely lost his mind. Friends asked, "Jeff, your business is on fire and you're off to space?" He replied calmly, "Long-term thinking. In 10 years, people will laugh that we didn't start sooner." It was a moment when one empire hung by a thread while another was just beginning to take shape in silence. But Bezos decided not to choose. He would keep both companies going. It was then that he coined the phrase he would later repeat to thousands of employees. "We're prepared for failure. We're just not prepared to give up." 2001. Amazon is drowning in debt. The online bookstore is dead. Banks are denying loans. And Bezos? He smiles and tells the team, this is the best time to invest in the future. He refuses to slow down and pushes forward. Amazon Marketplace is born. Now anyone can sell on their platform for a commission. a brilliant solution where sellers handled the shipping themselves. Within a couple of years, a third of all revenue comes from third parties. Bezos doesn't build warehouses for every product, he rents out shelf space. The phrase, "your margin is my opportunity," takes on a new meaning. In 2005, Amazon Prime launches. For $79 a year, free 2-day shipping. Everyone is screaming, "It's a money loser." Bezos replies, "In 10 years, this will be our main competitive barrier." And he was right. Today, Prime has 200 million subscribers worldwide. Loyalty that money can't buy. The most pivotal decision was AWS, Amazon Web Services. It all started with a simple problem. Amazon's internal servers were sitting idle. The engineers suggested, "Why don't we rent out this computing power to other companies?" What do you think Bezos said? "Let's do it." On March 14, 2006, they launched S3, a simple storage service. Then EC2, virtual servers. At first, Silicon Valley laughed. Bookie is venturing into the cloud. But a couple of years later, everyone got it. Netflix, Airbnb, even NASA, they're all on AWS. Today, it accounts for 30–35% of Amazon's total revenue. A pure money printing machine. In 2024, AWS revenue exceeded $100 billion a year. Just hardware and code. While Amazon was transforming into a behemoth in plain sight, a second empire was growing in silence. Blue Origin. Since 2000, Bezos had been quietly funneling tens of millions of dollars from his own pocket into the venture. Every weekend he held secret meeting with engineers in a hangar. No press releases, no investors. "We're going to make space accessible," he said. Not for tourists, but for good. The early years were nothing but tests and explosions. It wasn't until 2015 that New Shepard achieved its first successful vertical takeoff and landing. At NASA, they shook their heads. Bezos is spending his millions on toys while Elon's SpaceX is landing government contracts. But Bezos wasn't in a hurry. He was thinking decades ahead. The core corporate philosophy and mindset he established boiled down to this. Day one, a management approach in which a giant corporation operates with the flexibility, speed, and passion of a young startup. And the main fear, the onset of day two, stagnation that leads to the decline and demise of the business. Day one for Amazon and day one for space. Amazon is no longer just a store, it's a platform, a cloud, logistics, and movies. Prime Video. Market capitalization by 2017, $500 billion. Bezos is leaving everyone in the dust. You know what I'm thinking? One man has two completely different machines in his head. One sells socks and movies. The other builds rockets so people can live on the moon. And both are running at full throttle. Not a day to catch their breath, not a single compromise on quality. It was a real takeoff, but things only go well in fairy tales. In 2017, Jeff Bezos officially became the richest person on the planet. Amazon is worth over $500 billion. Every second, someone somewhere in the world buys something on their site. AWS prints money faster than the Fed. Prime has 100 million subscribers, and at the very same time, in a secret hangar in Kent, Washington, Blue Origin engineers are assembling New Shepard. Bezos flies between two worlds in a private jet. In the morning, a meeting at Amazon. In the evening, a private call with the rocket scientists. Many said the guy has completely lost touch with reality. One business, trillions, the other a black hole into which he's pouring his money. And he really was pouring it in. From 2000 to 2018, Bezos personally invested over $1 billion of his own money into Blue Origin. Not a single government contract, not a single dollar of venture capital. "This is my insurance for humanity," he said. While Amazon was conquering Earth, Blue Origin was preparing for the moon. In 2015, the first successful vertical takeoff and landing. By 2018, there were already dozens of tests. Bezos smiled. "We're making space boring and predictable." But it was precisely at the peak that the first cracks began to appear. In 2013, Bezos bought the Washington Post for $220 million in cash, officially to preserve independent journalism, but everyone saw through it. This isn't an investment, it's about showing off and influence. The newspaper immediately began harshly criticizing Trump. In response, Amazon ran into trouble with the Pentagon and regulators. No one proved it, but the bad taste remained. In 2014, Amazon released the Fire Phone. Bezos personally promoted it as the iPhone killer. They invested hundreds of millions. The result? A complete failure. The company wrote off $170 million in losses. And then the personal stuff. January 2019. The divorce from Mackenzie. 25 years of marriage. 4 children. It happened because of the billionaire's affair with TV host Lauren Sánchez. First, there was the scandal with the National Enquirer. Photos, blackmail, but Bezos himself took to Twitter and published everything. I'm not going to hide, Bezos and Mackenzie's divorce is still considered the most expensive divorce in human history. Mackenzie received a quarter of Amazon's shares, $38 billion in cash and stock. In a single day, Bezos lost nearly a quarter of his fortune and his controlling stake. Things started to fall apart inside Amazon too. The warehouses, conveyor belts where people work like robots, burnout, high turnover. Journalists wrote, "Amazon is a machine that eats people." Bezos replied, "We're not a charity." But the first lawsuits over working conditions were already flying. Blue Origin wasn't far behind either. Delays, explosions during tests, billions vanishing into thin air. Engineers were leaving for SpaceX. At least they were getting paid there and moving faster. Many came to believe that Bezos was building a rocket for himself, not for humanity. At the top, it always feels like you're a god. 2 projects under control, money pouring in, but it's precisely when you stop feeling the ground beneath your feet that the first cracks appear. But the main crisis was still ahead. In 2020, the coronavirus pandemic began to rage across the world. Sales skyrocketed. Revenue up 40%. And then it began. The EU and the US opened antitrust cases. The charges were severe: monopoly, copying seller data, stifling competitors, fines, congressional hearings, billions spent on lawyers. Apparently, Washington decided that Bezos had been untouchable for too long. Amazon is forced to change its marketplace rules. Part of the business is under attack. Stock prices are volatile. Over 2 years, the company loses hundreds of billions in market capitalization. Meanwhile, his second empire is simply burning. Blue Origin is falling catastrophically behind SpaceX. Elon is sending astronauts to the ISS, while Bezos is still testing the suborbital New Shepard. New Glenn, a heavy-lift rocket that has cost billions, is constantly being delayed. Engineers are leaving in droves. Blue Origin's budget has already exceeded $2 billion, all from Bezos' own pocket. Not a single major government contract. In 2021, he himself flies into space for 10 minutes. A nice selfie, a speech about the future, but critics openly said, a tourist circus while Elon is building real spaceflight. Between 2022 and 2024, Amazon is forced to carry out its first mass layoffs. Warehouses go on strike. Unions launch attacks. Journalists dig up internal chats. People are working like robots while Bezos is in space. And then the following happens. May 28, 2026. New Glenn explodes during testing, never having lifted off. A total disaster. Flames, debris, hundreds of millions up in smoke. Bezos watches the broadcast in silence. When you're juggling 2 projects like this, sooner or later one starts eating into the other. Amazon is under scrutiny from regulators. Blue Origin is drowning in delays, and his personal life is splashed across the tabloids. It's easy to forget that the billionaire who seemed unsinkable is, after all, human. Rock bottom, but it's precisely from moments like these that Bezos has always known how to rise. New Glenn has just exploded on the launch pad. The debris is still smoldering in the dust, and the very next day Bezos is holding a private call with the Blue Origin team. No hysterics, just one phrase: we're going to dissect every bit of it and launch again. Anyone else would have given up, not him. Despite his setbacks, the company has still achieved some success. New Shepard flies like clockwork, nearly 20 tourist flights. And most importantly, Bezos stated, "We're not competing with Elon, we're building infrastructure for future generations." And he invested another $500 million of his own money, personally. Amazon has reinvented itself. After the antitrust battles, they wised up. They opened up more data to sellers, lowered commissions, and launched new logistics servers. Revenue in 2025 surpassed $700 billion. AWS continues to rake in money, now $130 billion a year. Prime has grown to over 230 million subscribers worldwide. Even after all the regulatory blows, the market cap is once again above $2 trillion. Bezos remains executive chairman. Not CEO, but the mastermind. Bezos reminds shareholders of day one that the company is always at the very beginning of its journey. Today, in 2026, Jeff Bezos is still among the top 3 richest people on the planet. The guy who once repaired wind turbines on a Texas ranch now holds the reins of humanity's 2 most ambitious ventures. He may be an ordinary man, but he continues to carry both companies on his shoulders. We have no idea what it has cost him: a divorce, scandals, sleepless nights, billions lost. But he's still in the game, playing for high stakes, and he has no intention of stopping. What allowed Jeff Bezos to achieve such success? Here are the 5 main factors. First, ironclad long-term thinking. While everyone else was living quarter by quarter, Bezos was thinking in decades. When the company's stock plummeted by more than 90% during the dot-com crash, it might have seemed completely illogical to spread resources across Blue Origin and AWS. Everything laughed, but Bezos knew exactly why he was doing it. Second, a love of failure. Rocket explosions, the Fire phone fiasco, the dot-com crash, a $38 billion divorce. For him, these aren't the end, but data. Fail fast, learn faster than anyone else. Most billionaires fear mistakes. Bezos collects them. He called it the regret minimization framework. It was precisely this formula that led him to leave Wall Street. Third, an obsession with the customer. Start with the customer and work backwards. This simple idea made Amazon what it is today. Not competitors, not technology, the customer is at the center of everything. One click, Prime, reviews. He always asked, what does the customer want tomorrow? Fourth, the ability to hold 2 seemingly incompatible ideas in his mind at the same time. While Amazon was conquering the world, Blue Origin was paving the way for humanity to reach the stars. And fifth, personal discipline and roots. At Texas ranch, a grandfather had taught him, if it breaks, fix it yourself. Bezos never lost that country's stubbornness and engineering mindset. But there is something even deeper. Throughout his story, there is a clear understanding that Bezos is interested in more than just money. He's pouring massive investments into the central space dream of his entire life, Blue Origin, so that millions of people can live and work in space, turning Earth into a place of rest and a nature reserve. His goal is not commercial gain, but a desire to change the world for the better. In the end, Jeff Bezos proved one key thing: the greatest empires are not born of greed or vanity. They are born of a combination of discipline, cold calculation, and a wild dream. From a garage to space, from dust to trillions. And as long as there are people willing to dream and take action, humanity will move forward, fast, on a massive scale, and very, very far.